You found it. Now don't forget where you put it. Welcome to The Lisa Show.
When is the last time that you were up for a job interview? Are you afraid of them? Coming up in 20 minutes, tune in to learn how to conquer your fears.
And in your morning buzz this morning, guess what? A bunch of firsts happening at the Olympics in Tokyo. I'll tell you 2 of them as we get towards your morning buzz. That's about 15 minutes away.
One of the best types of service are the ones that we do that don't even feel like service at all, just a part of our lives. So taking care of a community garden is a really great service to your area, but it can feel more like bonding with your neighbors than an actual chore. I know Richie is really passionate about this particular subject because gardens really do have a unique way of bringing lots of different kinds of people together. But why is that? What is it about community gardens that serve and unite a community or a neighborhood? Well, today we're talking with Terry Barrett, the director of Giving Garden, a community garden located in Carrollton, Texas. It's been in operation for 12 years as a nonprofit organization, bringing fresh fruits and vegetables to its community. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. How are you today?
We are doing well, and we are getting a little bit hungry, actually, thinking about all of the fresh produce that a community garden might generate. And it's such a wonderful idea. I'm wondering how the concept of your particular garden originated.
Well, it was originally the idea of Reverend Woody Wildage, who was pastor of our church, Aldersgate United Methodist Church. And while speaking to our congregation one Sunday back in 2009, he pointed to the open field outside of our church, and he wondered aloud, how are we going to upkeep that field this summer? And he then remarked on the steady stream of traffic that traveled from the apartments on one side of our church to the grocery store on the other side of the church. And he said that the people who were making the trek were buying groceries to feed their families. But then he also said that not everybody had the means to do that. And so he suggested that we actually turn our open field into a garden to produce healthful food for the people who were in need of food. But, it didn't happen just like that.
Sure.
I was just going to say, yeah.
It was actually an entire year before our dream became a reality. A few of us were inspired by that discussion on Sunday. We formed what we call a seed committee, and we began meeting and researching how to start a community garden, and we benchmarked with other gardens in local cities. We joined forces with a community organization called Keep Carrollton Beautiful, and that also showed the same goals as us. And we formed a nonprofit organization that was actually independent of the church. We created a steering committee, recruited volunteers, established a framework for our organization, raised funds, drafted a plan for the garden. And in 2010, we actually built our garden with 100 volunteers there.
Wow. Such a great organizational skills involved in it. It. Not just like, let's just start this, but you really had the infrastructure in it to lay the groundwork for it to be a big undertaking. So it's become so successful. What do you attribute to that success?
Well, that really has to be our volunteers. The Giving Garden has benefited from the energy and enthusiasm of scouts and trail life participants, corporations, church members, neighbors, gardeners, and students of all ages. And over our 12 years of operation, I'd estimate that we had about 1,000 people support or volunteer for us in one way or another.
Give me an idea. How big is this garden? What are we talking about?
Well, it's not as big as you would think. We have 32 garden beds, and each garden bed is 4 by 20 feet.
And
it's about medium size.
So then when you have your produce, who do you donate it to? How do you distribute it?
Well, that was one of the challenges we had to overcome. Our gardeners really know how to grow beautiful produce, but they really don't have the resources to identify those in need in our community. But fortunately, there are 2 United Way organizations that serve those in need in our area. And although they provide many support services to people who need a helping hand, they also provide a food pantry to help those who are hungry. And so our garden delivers its fresh fruit, vegetables, and herbs to these food pantries so it can be distributed to those most in need.
If you're go ahead.
Go ahead. Also, once a month, the garden delivers its produce to our church, Aldersgate, our food share program, which delivers meat, canned goods, and fresh produce directly to the homes of senior citizens who are in need in our community.
Wow.
We're talking with Terry Barrett with the Giving Garden down in Carrollton, Texas. An amazing community garden, nonprofit organization, more than a decade that you guys have been giving back to the beautiful community of Carrollton down there in Texas. I would be curious, the pastor sort of said, hey, let's do this. Was everyone on board instantly, or was there sort of some, hey, this is going to be really great. Come on, we're going to, and then everyone kind of got on board?
Well, given the hot summer temperatures down here in Texas, you can imagine not everybody was on board. But there were about 5 to 7 of us who were really inspired by the idea. And so that's why we formed a seed committee. And by the way, we thought that name was hilarious.
Yeah, it's very, very clever. I love that. We don't.
So then I guess in follow-up to the question that I asked, then with the success and the ability to give back to the community, those naysayers in the beginning, have you won them over?
They weren't really naysayers. They were more like, well, I don't want to do that.
Let someone else.
That's pretty naysaying, but...
But honestly, gardening isn't for everybody, but for the people who do participate, I can tell you we enjoy it tremendously.
Yeah. What do you think it is about a community garden that brings people together so well?
Well, you know, our gardeners are really a varied lot. We have people of all different ages and races, and religions and cultures and skills and knowledge and levels of energy. But the Giving Garden is a place where we can work together to help fight hunger in our community. It's where we also enjoy the fruits of our labor. We learn about growing plants and keeping our environment clean. We exercise and enjoy the outdoors. We promote good nutrition. But what I think is just as important is we mingle and socialize with our new friends. We share our lives, and we encourage and we laugh with each other. So perhaps this is why we are truly a community garden.
When you guys seek to plant every year, do you try different things, or is it a pretty regimented, this is what we plant every year because we know this is what people will eat?
Oh, no. We allow each gardener to select what they would like to plant for the year. And we only have 2 rules about that. The first is that it has to be edible so that we can share it with our neighbors in need. And it also has to be legal. It has to be within the laws.
Yeah.
But everybody plants what they enjoy eating, and it's almost a guarantee if somebody enjoys that particular food, then when they share it with their neighbor, their neighbor's going to enjoy it just as much.
I'm wondering, I'm sure you've met a lot of people through this community garden and worked with certainly many, as you say, like probably nearly 1,000 people in this. Are there some specific experiences that you've had that make this particular community garden significant to you?
Oh, there's so many great experiences. I can tell you, at one time, a student who had received court-mandated community service, and he asked us if he could work out in the garden. And believe me, by that time it was about 100 degrees every day. And he came out and he worked every day. He worked really hard, and he made a huge difference in the way our garden looked. And we kind of bonded with this young man. He was really, really kind. And afterwards we asked if he wanted to join the garden and become a gardener. And he and his mom did, and they managed to garden for some time. And then even after he went to college, he would come back and visit. And we just became really good friends with him. And he changed our lives. And perhaps we might have helped him in one way or another, too.
Yeah. Wow.
Has the popularity of your community garden grown to such that there's a waiting list? I know the one in my particular community, they thought there's no way we'll ever have enough volunteers, and now it's a several-year waiting list to be able to get a plot.
Oh, it's not several years down here, but we begin to develop our waiting list in the fourth quarter of the year, and it can get pretty lengthy. and we're usually able to accommodate almost everybody. But I can tell you, towards July and August, that waiting list begins to kind of taper off because of the high temperatures down here. But fortunately, we've mentored the startup of 3 other gardens here in Carrollton, and any overflow people are able to interview with those gardens and also get a garden bed there. So we cooperate and work with one another to ensure that everybody can help out each other.
I'm so impressed by not just the idea and fulfillment of doing this community garden, but just how well organized it is in including so many members of your community and being able to reach those who could really benefit the most from it. If people don't live in your particular area and they're inspired by what you guys have done over there, what advice do you have for them, and where can they go for additional, information so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Well, that's one of the beautiful things about our garden is that we will mentor the startup of other community gardens. And I talk to people all over the nation who are excited about starting up a garden. And I offer our documentation, our processes, our rules so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just start where we are, pick the best of what they think will work in their particular town, and apply it there. Yeah, but our Giving Garden Board of Directors is there's people who work and there's people who retire, but we all bring gifts and talents to the board, and each person has an area of specialization that they share and work for the garden with. So it's a lot of fun, but it's not without its challenges either.
Sure. A lot of hard work. Hey, Terry, can I ask you a very personal question?
Sure.
What fruit or vegetable out of your garden is your favorite?
Are you guys known for something?
And to eat, to be clear, like you'll pick it and you'll take it right home and eat it, or maybe even eat it right there in the garden.
I can tell you with a doubt my favorite is the okra, and I know that's not everybody's favorite, but I can make a mean okra omelet every morning.
Nice.
Tired of it. I'm also growing cantaloupe right now, and those are really great as well.
Yeah, you don't even have to bother to take those cantaloupe home. Just cut them up right there.
Yeah.
Bring yourself a spoon, scoop it out after a hard day's work in the garden.
That's right.
So cool to be able to visit with you. Terry Barrett, the director of Giving Garden. It's a community garden located in Carrollton, Texas. They've been around for about 12 years as a nonprofit organization bringing fresh fruits and vegetables to the community. You can find more about them on Facebook, or if you're looking for service opportunities in your particular area, don't forget you can go to justserve.org, put in your zip code, and find those one-time or multi-time service opportunities.
Now, the way you dress says a lot about you, specifically during a job interview. Coming up in about 5 minutes, learn how you can dress appropriately to get that job you want.
Tons of exciting things happen in the Olympics. Tons of exciting things being reported to you in this morning's Buzz. You are listening to The Lisa Show.
Thank you for listening to The Lisa Show. Are you not sure if you're ready to start dating again after a divorce, loss, or separation? In 20 minutes, we're going to have a relationship expert share her thoughts on how you can know when you're ready to get out there. But first, it's time for your Morning Buzz with Richie T.
It's 3 things that are trending online right now, and this first one, I don't know if it's real or not, but it's real cool.
Okay.
Have you seen this? It's a sports ball thing, so
okay.
I already know the answer to the question that I just rhetorically asked you. Tom Brady used to be, for the one team. Now he's for the other team.
Okay, cool.
There's a video of him playing football with himself. Now, it's
Okay.
pretty rad. He's got, I forget what the name of the machine is, but essentially, like if he were a receiver, someone could put the football in the little machine and it spews it out.
Okay.
And then
like a tennis ball.
Yeah, like a
shooter.
tennis thing would be, or like an auto pitch for baseball.
Oh, okay.
Those machines have a name, and I know that one person is like, it's called a fisherman fin, and yelling at their radio right now. But there's a video that's trending online right now of Tom Brady out playing football by himself where he's so accurate. he can toss the football right back into the machine, and it shoots it right back out at him like he's playing catch with himself. The speculation, is it real? Mine?
Oh.
I'm going to go out on the record and say, no, it's not real.
And then, just to be contrary, I'm going to say it's real.
Well, of course, after much research like you did. But it real or not, way to go,
cool.
video editors for Tom Brady if you did that and it's fake. Way to go, Tom Brady, if you're just able to do that. It's pretty cool.
And just because you're Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Well done.
And then these other two things that are trending online right now are they're Olympics, or Olympics news, as I like to call it. Weightlifter Hidilyn Diaz made history Monday, becoming the first athlete from the Philippines to win gold. First time gold ever for the country of the Philippines. The 30-year-old set an Olympic record, lifting a combined weight of 224 kilograms to clinch the top spot. You're probably asking, how much is 224 kilograms? 2 million pounds. She's amazingly strong. I'm not sure if that trend...
Yep.
I'm not sure I've got that conversion
you have
right.
to move a
decimal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of weight, and the video of this is
amazing.
trending online as well. Diaz burst into tears and embraced her coaches after completing the record-breaking lift. She was seen clutching her medal and pointing to the Philippine flags on her jersey while standing on the podium. First-time gold for that country.
Wow.
And other Olympic news. I also love this individual's name, Flora Duffy.
Cool.
Is the name of the triathlon winner in the Olympics. Flora Duffy celebrates after winning the Olympic triathlon. She is from the country of Bermuda, and that record is the smallest country ever to win a gold medal.
Wow.
And that took place yesterday.
Oh, my word.
It's an island of like 62,000 people, and apparently the entire island of Bermuda is celebrating Flora Duffy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Today. So cool Olympics news. I got more for you, but that's coming up in your next morning buzz. That's it for this one.
Thanks, Richie T. Job interviews can be nerve-wracking for many, but knowing how to dress and behave is halfway on bringing you the success that you're looking for, right? The proper outfit helps you build the confidence, that you have, and also it kind of informs a little bit of your personality and who you are.
It can also help you be memorable to those who would interview you.
And that, along with knowing how to act and what answers to give in your interview, will be your best allies in your career path. So, here to help us with that, we've invited Justin Jones, BYU Career Director. Thanks for being here, Justin, as a friend of the show.
Oh, I thank you. Happy to be back with you.
Now, listen, we need a refresher because a lot of us have been, doing Zoom calls and business meetings with pajama bottoms and you know what I mean? It's time to spruce things up, knowing that this is a time of pivoting for a lot of people career-wise. And I'm curious, when people come in to talk to you for advice, what are their biggest fears and concerns coming into an interview?
That is a great question. And they vary, but really their biggest concern is, I want to make a good impression. And I probably have very little time to do that. In fact, a first impression is created within the first 3 seconds of meeting someone. So whether that's in person or via Zoom or online, you want to put your best foot forward. And so that's really what I visit with my clients is, how are you going to make a stunning first impression that then you can build on throughout the interview?
And so when you set someone up for that and you're like, okay, here's what we're going to do, where do you start?
Well, I love that you're asking that question because I know, Lisa, that you have had some very public presentations recently.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was even on your mind. Like, how do I dress to impress but not overdo it?
Yes, I might have obsessed. I think obsessed is a good word for it.
That's accurate.
And so I imagine you probably asked a few friends. You may have even had an image consultant that worked with you, but not everybody has the funds to do that. So let's just help them out today. The very first thing you want to think about is respect. Respect for the position and the people that you are speaking to.
Yeah.
Similar, and I get it. I get that we've been all locked in our houses and all party up top and then or on the bottom and whatever, professional up top.
That's exactly how that saying goes, Justin. You nailed it. Perfect.
So really with that, think about if you were going to a wedding, if you were going to a funeral, if you were going to a bar mitzvah, you would probably dress. Even if you were going to church, you would think about the way that you dress, and it's probably out of respect for that ceremony, that event. Think of this as an event where you want to show respect for the people you are speaking to. And so how do you figure that out? Mm-hmm. A lot of places are dressed casual. If I'm going to a bank, I'm probably going to dress differently than if I'm going to an IT position or to a graphic design position. So where are the clues or the cues that you take? Take a look at their website. How do they face outwardly to the public? And not just their website, but the About Us page. There will generally be a photograph of the C-level suite or the people running the organization. How are they dressed in that image? And then, as a clue, dress at least one step above that for the interview.
I love it. One step above.
Yeah, you should be better dressed than the people who are interviewing you.
Is that true in all situations, or could that backfire on you in particular ones?
So when I say one step above, if I was going into an IT field, those folks wear T-shirts. They may wear flip-flops and shorts. So I would probably wear a nice set of Dockers and a button-down shirt, or even a polo. That's a bit or a step above whoever's going to be in that interview. If I'm going to the bank, they typically are dressed quite well. So I would consider wearing a suit and a tie and a white shirt if I were a male. I would consider wearing a business suit if I were a female, non-patterned or not invasive patterns. You want to keep it, again, respectful, that the focus should be on you and your answers, not on what you're wearing.
What are the worst mistakes that you see people making when they choose an outfit for an interview?
Oh, goodness. So many.
We would love some good stories.
Let's keep the food and the wrinkles and the stains off of your clothing. I work with college students, and perhaps maybe they aren't quite as professional in their everyday wear. So, get an iron, take it to the dry cleaner, get something that is pressed, clean, and presentable. For those who have a bit more experience, what we're really looking at is stick with conservative colors. For men, charcoal gray, navy blue, even something lighter like a lighter blue is acceptable. For women, you probably want to stick on the safe side with solids rather than patterns. But again, a nice neutral color, tans, things like that. But stay away from the power suits or the power colors. This isn't the time for that. You're not running for president. You're looking for a job. Yeah. So the red power suit, not great. The pink power suit from, an attorney movie that we saw with a young girl with blonde hair and a pink suit, probably not the thing you're going to do.
Gotcha.
We're visiting with career director at Brigham Young University, Justin Jones, friend of the show, talking about maybe sort of simmering our nerves as we get into job interviews. You've talked a lot about dress. It's not just about what you're wearing when you go into these job interviews. I want to take the remainder of our conversation and talk about how we can prepare to answer the questions. That's what we're being is interviewed. What great pieces of advice do you have? We've planned it out. We set our clothes out the night before. We're in the room now. What do we need to be thinking about or not thinking about?
Okay, well, one of my favorite lines from a well-known musical about a little orphan is this: you're never fully dressed without a smile. A smile can communicate so much more about your interactiveness, your approachability, and your confidence. So never forget to smile. And an interview is a high-pressure situation. Yeah. So that is the piece that most people forget.
Oh, interesting.
Is that they need to be themselves. They need to smile. They also need to practice, rehearse. And there are so many ways to do that. You can practice with a friend. You can practice with a cat or dog, shaking hands. You can also practice in the mirror. And there are so many, thanks to Zoom, you can even practice recording yourself on a Zoom call,
true.
just giving answers to questions that you might feel uncomfortable, and then you can see your body language. You can play it back. You can send that to your mom. You can send that to your job coach. You can send it to your friends, and they can give you feedback on, oh, well, you have food in your teeth, you're slouched in your chair, you look or appear like you are still in your bed. Perhaps you should get a better Zoom background, something with a blur filter so that distractions are not happening. But I also want to pivot and talk about confidence.
Okay.
Confidence sells. And so if you have not done your research on the company, if you have not looked up their website, if you have not talked to a few people who work there that help you understand the culture, you are not fully prepared to go into that interview. And there are plenty of ways to find people utilizing LinkedIn, to connect with them using alumni networks from your college or university or even your church or other work networks, to talk to people who work at those locations so that you feel a little bit more comfortable. The other thing I'd recommend is we've got the Olympics, and I know that they use psychology with all of those athletes. They picture themselves winning the race, winning the contest. If you will spend a few moments with yourself mentally preparing, even for the interview, that everyone in that interview loves everything that comes out of your mouth. In your mind, make it far bigger than it will probably ever be in that room or Zoom room. But you feel confident in giving the answers. You're wearing your favorite color. You're standing on your podium. You're taking your superhero pose. And if you will just mentally go through that and mentally go through the questions, answering all of them correctly, them stumbling over themselves, saying, you're the one that we want. When you get in that room and they are totally blank face and it is very sterile, go back to that mental image of you being calm, collected, smiling, and winning. It will help you every single time.
I love that you've given us specific ways to practice confidence. It's something I think we don't really talk a lot about. I'd like to ask you about the questions themselves for the interview. Likely there are some standard questions that you expect an employer or a prospective employer to ask you, but there's always going to be that unexpected question. And how do you recommend people react if they're asked a question that they weren't really prepared for or kind of catches them off guard?
Probably just turn red and slide under your chair and try and crawl out of the room.
Okay, all right.
Oh, wait, no, that's probably what
No,
people
the
have done.
opposite.
I'd be Neapolitan. We didn't ask you about ice cream. I don't know. I was expecting something else.
So with that, inevitably, there will be probably a question to catch you off guard. And a lot of times they'll do that. The biggest one is, what's your greatest weakness? And people blow that one all the time. But
oh, really?
Why
do you say that? No, I want to ask about that.
It's a negative-oriented question, and it gives you a great opportunity to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
The most common answer to that one, heard it 1,000 times, is I'm a perfectionist. Worst answer ever, because everybody's already said it. It doesn't do anything to set you apart from anyone.
Okay.
And it's so contrite these days. So I would stay away from I'm a perfectionist. However, if you can think of something that you are continually working on. So say you're going into, we'll use the banking field again.
Okay.
That is highly customer facing. Mm-hmm. There's always work that you could do on communication. So if I were going to respond to that, what's your greatest weakness? I would not say communication is my greatest weakness. Don't own weakness. Own improvement. So what you're going to do with that is say, that is a really good question. And in my years of customer experience, I've found that many times customers can ask me challenging questions. What I've found as I continually work on that day by day is that if I will listen intently to what their needs are and also listen for perhaps underlying needs, that I am far better at answering their question and making sure their needs are met. I do that on a daily basis. I've done it for years, and I would love to do that for you.
Wow.
A great
Boom.
response. Yeah.
Seriously.
Did
Like,
someone
I'm
just-
like, you're hired. Wait, what?
Someone just dropped a mic. Someone just dropped a mic in here.
Do you want to work with us?
Yes.
Done.
Justin, great suggestions, not only from how we dress, but how we approach the interview that will help people calm nerves. As we know, people are applying and trying and transitioning to new jobs right now. There's one more question that Lisa and I have for you before we let you go.
I hope
the
you're
question
really
is-
ready for this.
You have one more question, and I have one more tip. So let's get it in there.
Then may I insist that you incorporate the tip within the answer to this question. Justin,
I will do it.
What if you were an ice cream flavor? What ice cream flavor would you be?
So sorry.
That is a great interview question. And, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned Neapolitan before because you get 3 different flavors in one, all of them great, but in unique ways. And when you combine them, the synergy is absolutely fantastic. That's what you'd be getting in me as an employee is at least 3 different flavors, and when combined, a synergistic explosion that will blow your mind and really help your bottom line. So with that, that's what ice cream I would choose, and I would make sure that ice cream wore glasses because several studies have shown that people who wear glasses are typically perceived as more intelligent, more competent, and industrious than those without spectacles. So wear the spectacles and get the job.
Okay, I like that. Do you see how seamlessly he went from answering your question to giving you additional information?
We already
He's hired.
We already hired
Well,
him.
he's getting a promotion.
Listen, you own this place. Welcome, Justin.
Why, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Thank you for being on the show. Hop on over real quick to BYURadio.org.
We are giving away an annual National Parks Pass as part of Lisa's Adventure Club. So you've got to enter to get that chance to win. We're giving them a one away every week all summer long.
You will not win. I hate it. This is just for
You're just breaking it down.
It's just realism. I'm just a realist.
Yeah.
You cannot win if you do not enter, but you have a much greater chance of winning if you enter, and an even greater chance if you enter the special code word of the week. Every week here on The Lisa Show, we'll give you a special word that there is a place that says, give us the special word, and then you put it in, gets you more entries. The word of this week, one word. It's actually probably 2 words that we crammed together. Is it a compound word, English teacher? Is back country, which is the word. Is that
country.
Is that a compound word?
I know, I gotta look it up. I gotta dust off those grammar books. Listen, it's been a while.
Make it one word at BYURadio.org. Backcountry. You enter that in, you'll get more entries to get that annual National Parks Pass.
If you're ready to start dating again, but you're feeling a little rusty, stay tuned to hear how you can get out there with confidence.
It's coming up next. You're listening to The Lisa Show. You deserve to pursue love in your own time and on your own terms. And for those who are figuring out dating later in life, it can be difficult to know how to get started or where to turn, especially if you're starting to date after something like a loss or a separation. You might feel stranded in a brand new dating environment that you didn't expect to have to enter even in the first place. Well, today, we're lucky because we have a psychologist and therapist who's here to offer a little guidance. Tiffany Schneider-Raff knows firsthand how difficult re-entering the dating world can be, and she's here to tell us about how you can find your path to new love in a way that works best for you. Welcome, Tiffany.
Good morning.
So set the stage for us. I feel like I kind of queued it up, but this is your bread and butter, the experience that you have. What kind of pressures is it that people are feeling when they're going to re-enter the dating world?
That's a great question, and I think it does vary depending on the individual's particular situation, where they're coming from. And when I say that, I don't say it lightly because it's not only what past relationships are they coming out of, but what models did they have at home growing up. I know there's always, the jokes about, the people from the therapy or life coaching world coming in and asking about your parents' relationship, but there is a great learning curve with doing relationships well. And the question is, what relationships have you seen modeled and what have you participated in? And that will create the background for what you come into the next relationships with. And so your individual struggles are really individual based on your experiences and your education. And so I really just want to emphasize that the main thing for each person is to take their journey as an individual journey and not try to, think that what somebody else is going through or what's been successful for somebody else is necessarily what's going to work or not going to work for them.
Let's take a step further into that. If parents were divorced, how do obviously we know that and we can say, okay, well, I saw that in my childhood home, but what can we assess or extrapolate out of something like that as we're looking to re-enter the dating world?
That is definitely the golden question. I don't like to, answer questions or look at situations in an all or nothing way. And what I mean by that is there can be several scenarios. If you have parents that are divorced and had a dysfunctional relationship, it's possible that what you learn from that is to reproduce the model. And that is definitely something that we see a lot in life coaching, is that without even realizing it, you just reproduce what you saw at home. Mm-hmm. There can be a second scenario in which you do the exact opposite. You say to yourself, I absolutely don't want the relationship my parents had, and therefore I'm going to do everything different. That could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing.
Right.
And so I don't want us to box ourselves and say if somebody has divorced parents, then they're necessarily going to, create a relationship that's unhealthy themselves. That's just not true. In the real world, there's a lot of scenarios. But what I can say is, if you have divorced parents and then you find yourself having unsuccessful relationships, that will be kind of a note to yourself, or red flag to yourself that, hey, maybe something's not working here in what I think creates a healthy relationship, and maybe this is something that I need to explore. There's various ways to learn how to do relationship right. You can go to a life coach, you can go to a therapist, but you can also just use, your community, whether it's your religious community and there's healthy relationships there that you can learn from, or your best friend that has a really great relationship, and, you start taking notes or asking questions to learn how they make it work. There's a plethora of knowledge now available to all of us, whether it's through the internet or through our relationships. And I just want to advocate for people, taking charge of learning how to be healthy in relationship for themselves.
I love that so much of this conversation up to this point is about that it is individual, that there is no, person or formula that you can compare yourself to. It's very individual, from the home that you were raised into, the experience that you might have experienced that led you to being single, right? Either the loss of a spouse or partner or the separation from that partner. I would be curious, as this sort of fits into that same vein, less on looking for a specific timeline of when we are ready to enter in, but what are some things that allow us to know that maybe we're ready to re-enter the dating scene?
I think there's a couple of things that anyone can do to prepare themselves for the dating scene. The first one that is really important and is a clear indication to me if somebody is actually ready to create a healthy relationship is if you ask them the question, what's their ideal relationship, or what are they looking for? Often you will have the people who will give you the laundry list of what they're looking for in the other person. But that's usually not the person that's 100% ready for a relationship. Mm-hmm. The person that's got more nuance, that's going to tell you about what they're willing to bring to the relationship to make it work, is usually the person that's a little bit more emotionally prepared for what it takes to make a relationship successful. Because there is, the dating high of passion in which any relationship can be great. Sure. The beginnings, the Hollywood movies, the let's go dancing all night and go on vacations, and, we don't have to deal with difficulties and struggle. And then there's real relationship that stands the test of time, particularly later in life, if a person's older, or perhaps the person has children, or perhaps, a person still is dealing with the after effects of a divorce, or the other scenario that you mentioned briefly, I believe, if they lost somebody close to them, a partner. So that's a little bit of a different scenario.
If you're just joining the conversation, we're talking with Tiffany Schneider-Raff about re-entering dating later in life. One thing that I also hear reflected from a lot of folks who find themselves in that in this situation, whether they met their spouse that they're now apart from, either from death or separation, that they met them in high school or they met them in college in these very social situations where it was easy to meet people. Then you fast forward 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, and they find themselves without that partner and just don't even know how to look. As we look today, in the last 20 to 30 years, it's gone from a meeting people in person and networking, that sort of way, to largely online. How do those that are finding themselves single nowadays that didn't have those options available to them, how can they do that and do that successfully?
I think there's a couple of things that they should really, become honest with themselves about before going out there. The first one is, have fun with it. It can be an overwhelming process. It can feel very foreign. This sounds horrible, but in the beginning, for a person who's not used to dating online, it almost feels like shopping for another human being. Mm-hmm. And that could feel fun to one person and horrible to another. So really to try and approach it with fun, with enjoyment, and think, this is a great opportunity to use technology to find somebody else that's looking for the same thing as me. Now, that's the caveat. Looking for somebody that wants the same thing as me. Become clear with yourself about what you're looking for. Are you looking to just date and have a friend? Mm-hmm. Are you looking to get remarried? Or are you looking to, really knowing what you're looking for? Because I'll tell you, one thing that is true about dating online and the new scenarios is that a lot of people will tell you up front or even put in their profile what they're looking for. So really not being shy about having strong boundaries and knowing, what it is that works for you at this point in your life. What's different when you're younger is you don't actually know who you are totally yet. Mm-hmm. And often if you're, dating or getting married to your high school sweetheart, the way the process is different is you're often growing up together. Mm-hmm. You might be getting your first bank accounts together and buying your first house together. Someone who is later on in life has a little bit more of a sense of what they like and what they don't like. They don't fully know who they are in the sense that we're constantly growing and changing, and we often change within relationships, right? So this future person that you're going to meet might change you and you might change them. But there are certain basics of, am I a person that likes routine, or am I a person that needs a life where I want to travel the world? There's certain things that you start to already know about your personality, and, really being honest about that with yourself can definitely help in the process.
There's the honesty about being honest about yourself, but then there's also a certain amount of respect that sometimes gets missed, where if someone says, I'm just looking for a friend, and I think maybe men do this more, maybe not, maybe that's just the assumption that I make, but we think, oh, well, that's what they say, but, I'm different, I'm the exception, but really respecting the boundaries that people have said, this is the thing that I'm looking for, and accepting that is the actual thing that they're looking for.
Very true. And, we do need to put out there that, somebody might put up a profile that I'm just looking to date, and they start dating you, and then they want something more serious, and mm-hmm. vice versa. I mean, people's desires change based on who they meet.
Sure.
I think that what we have to realize is if we meet somebody in high school, the moment that we meet them, we're not necessarily thinking, oh, I want to marry this person. And the dating world needs to be treated the same. And that's why I say have fun. Make the beginning process a light one. And the way you do that is by going into dating later in life, by having an independent life first. You know, make yourself happy first, have a community, have your hobbies, really enjoy your life, and go into dating as a complete person. Don't go into dating thinking, oh my God, let's say I just, lost my significant other 4 months ago, and I'm rushing into dating wanting to replace that person and thinking I'm going to find a filler. Nobody is going to be able to fulfill you until you are kind of more fulfilled on your own. You need to go into a relationship being a complete person.
Sometimes I feel like I learn, and I think subsequently others learn as well from like warnings and or like the pitfalls. So I wonder, we've probably mentioned a few of them, but worth reiterating. What are the mistakes that you, as you coach people, as you help people kind of re-enter the dating scene, what are those things that you see people do the most, and how can we avoid them?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, as I mentioned earlier, really going in honest about what you're willing to give to the relationship. I wrote a couple of books on relationships, and I remember that as I was, interviewing successful couples, I had gone in with the parameter of, okay, 50-50. We each give 50-50 and the relationship works. And I remember particularly, when I was interviewing a more religious couple, and they said to me, oh, well, you go into a relationship giving 100. And I think that is really something that needs to be highlighted is, what are you willing to give to make this relationship work? If you're looking for something that's going to be a long-term relationship, you have to be honest. I mean, anything we do in life takes effort. Anybody who tells you otherwise that relationship is just about having fun, that could be true. Sometimes we are looking for something that's just for fun, and that's okay too. But, if you're looking for that long-term relationship, it's the same as relationships with your best friends or your family members. It takes effort. It's the day-to-day of getting up with that smile on your face and having the difficult conversations and holding each other's hand through the difficulties. I do think, though, when we talk about, landmines a little bit, and we talk about the internet, I do want people that are getting into dating game later on in life to be mindful of also the dangers of internet dating. All of us have heard of, and maybe some of us have experienced, even myself. I have experienced when I was, dating before my current husband, profiles that are untrue. A lot of people will, there's the small, I'll embellish myself, and there's people that can outright lie. So taking this dating process slowly, if you meet somebody online, please start off with a coffee. Don't start off with an invitation to your home or even a full dinner, because the feelings that you might get texting with somebody or just sending pictures could be completely different when you see that person, live in both directions. Maybe you think that somebody is not a match just because you weren't crazy about something they said on the profile, and then you meet them live and you think, wow, this person's got a lot of potential. Or vice versa. A person sounds great online and you meet them in person and you're like, wow, something doesn't feel right. I don't feel comfortable with this person. So giving yourself the time to make a decision, go to a public place, have a coffee, keep it short, and take your time. Because unlike where you meet somebody in high school or at work, where you have the time to get a feeling for the person, where other people know this person, if you're meeting somebody where there's no common network, where you know nothing about their background, of course you can do an internet search and search their Facebook, but a lot of these things can be contrived as well. So I think that would be a big thing that, I see is warning signs for people who are so excited and so wanting to meet somebody, to be thoughtful. And on the other hand, not doing it so much so that they take the fun out of it and, they're putting so many boundaries up that nobody wants to meet them, right? If you're too difficult in the initial stages of dating, why would the other person want to pursue it? I mean, you're kind of putting up too much of a fortress. I think that would be the first things that come to mind.
We have about a minute left, and I would be curious if you could speak into the hope of reentering the dating world in later life.
I think that listen, like I said earlier, it is a fun process. Most people go in with the good intention of wanting to find love or wanting to find friendship. And, it's wonderful that today we do have these technologies where you don't have to go and sit in a bar, or you don't have to wait months at work to find somebody. You can just get online with the hope that, I'm going to put out there into the universe what I'm looking for, and somebody else is looking for it, and we can click on each other, in the wee hours of the night when we can't sleep, and already start a chat. I mean, that's a beautiful thing that we have these options today. So don't let age be a factor, and just believe that you're worthy and that you will attract into your life the type of person you deserve.
Great motivation as we look to, if that's our season of life, to look into re-entering the dating world. We've been visiting with Tiffany Schneider-Raff. If you want to get more of her great coaching and life-changing advice, you can go to lifechangeadvice.com. Tiffany, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
And a quick reminder that we love hearing from you. It's been a while. It's us, I'm sure.
It's your old pals.
It's your old pals. Lisa and Richie, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd email us at thelisashow@byu.edu and tell us how you're doing, where you're listening from, and if you've got a topic suggestion, that would be awesome. We want to know what you're thinking about and talking about with your friends and worried about and wondering about.
Yeah, is there a book you're reading that you think, oh, man, I would love to hear them interview this author?
This is
or
good.
I've heard about this book, but I'm not committed to the point of purchasing this book or actually looking into it myself, but I do listen to The Lisa Show. I'd like a little more information. Let us be that gateway of a little bit more information. You can send us all of that to thelisashow@byu.edu and do us a favor, because sometimes emails will come in and we'll be like, what is the point of this actually?
We really like that subject heading.
That subject heading of like guest suggestion, or here's a book I'm reading, or a few thoughts from the middle of the night. So that may not be why this doesn't make sense, kind of thing. Whatever it is, give us that little bit of cue. It's thelisashow@byu.edu. Our emails are always open, so we're putting the onus on you to do it. It's always open.
Yeah, and making that connection is something that we love about the show.
Sure.
So we're not just saying, hey, why don't you do this? We like to make the connection with people who are listening, and we do really want to hear from you. So thelisashow@byu.edu is the best way for us to know what's on your mind.
Coming up in just a couple of minutes, have you ever had a moment where you stopped to wonder why we yawn? Well, we assume it's because we're tired or bored, but are there other reasons for yawning?
You're listening to The Lisa Show.
Listen, learn, and enjoy. It's The Lisa Show with Lisa Valentine Clark and Richie T. The Lisa Show is happening now.
When was the last time you moved? What do you wish that you would have done differently? Well, we're fine-tuning our moving skills coming up in about 20 minutes.
Coming up in your morning buzz, there's a video trending online titled, "I tried to film a volcano and it was a complete disaster."
Oh, no.
I will tell you all about it. And other things trending online, that's coming up in 15 minutes. It's called Your Morning Buzz.
Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation with someone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on.
And you're really engaged in it, and out of nowhere, you just yawn.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like, you're not trying to be rude. And even like you may even be well rested. It's just something that happens, and it's almost like you can't help it. Well, that strange bodily function is something we rarely think about after all, because we feel like you can't really do anything about it. But here to help us understand a little bit more about this curious habit that we all do is Dr. Andrew Gallup, Assistant Professor of Biopsychology at the New York Polytechnic Institute. Dr. Gallup, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
By definition, what is a yawn? What is the purpose of it?
Well, it's not quite clear what the function of yawning is. I mean, there's a lot of research that's been conducted within the last decade or so which suggests that yawning might serve to cool the brain.
Okay.
So that this yawn takes into account this two-phase kind of action pattern, this deep inhalation of ambient air combined with this powerful extension and contraction of the jaw. And those two actions together appear to increase blood flow to the skull and provide a mechanism of countercurrent heat exchange, which serves to increase blood flow, cool blood flow to the skull, while in promoting venous drainage of warmer blood away from the brain.
This just sounds like that you're saying that it's the brain's equivalent of sort of like a fan on a computer. Is that a good equivalent?
It's similar, yeah. I mean, aside from the fact that a fan might be continuously running,
sure.
Right, the yawn is a relatively short duration action, but appears to be triggered by rises in brain temperature. So we've done some research on rats where we could monitor moment-to-moment changes in brain temperature before and after different types of activities, including yawning. And right before the animals yawn, that's preceded by a rapid rise in brain temperature. So similar to the way a fan might kick on,
sure,
or a thermostat might kick on as temperature rises, yawning and the mechanisms that drive that action pattern are triggered by deviations in brain temperature. So as brain temperature begins to rise, that this activates yawning, and that following the execution of this behavior, we see that brain temperatures the rise in brain temperatures stop, and then brain temperatures begin to diminish back down to baseline levels.
So when I hear you explain this, it seems to me, oh, yeah, this is just a function of just being a mammal. But there is like an association that we have with it, that it's rude to yawn. Do you have any sort of, I guess, sort of social history as to know why that is?
The origins related to the social stigma of yawning aren't well documented, and there appear to be differences in the social perception of yawning from one culture to the next. So that in the United States, I would agree, yawning in the presence of others and under certain contexts is considered rude, inappropriate. That yawn should be stifled. Certainly, we want to cover our mouth if we yawn in the presence of other people. It's a fascinating kind of social phenomenon that deserves more attention. But by stifling yawns or inhibiting yawns, that could be actually counterproductive to the individual. So one of the functions of yawning, ultimately, if yawning serves to increase blood flow to the skull and maintain an optimal brain temperature, what that does is it helps promote mental efficiency, increasing alertness and arousal to the individual. So we often yawn during periods of state change, sleeping to waking, or inactivity to activity, vice versa. And the action of yawning might help kind of reinstate a mental processing that keeps the individual alert and vigilant. So therefore, if we stifle these yawns or inhibit them in social contexts where our attention might be really important, it could be counterproductive.
We're talking with Dr. Andrew Gallup about yawning. Given what you just told us, then, I think I'm going to start leaning more into yawns, like in meetings and in opportunities that I have to be with other individuals, with the excuse, if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm just trying to increase my mental efficiency.
I mean, it sounds silly given the context of socially about yawning, but I think promoting yawning in social settings would be really a positive thing. There's certainly no negatives associated with yawning, but there certainly could be negatives associated with inhibiting or stifling yawn.
Oh, really?
I have a quick question to kind of follow up about this, since it's sort of reflective on brain temperature. If I yawn a tremendous amount, I'm rested as far as sleep goes. Sure. But I find myself yawning. Is that an indication of like increased brain temperature that might be something warranting me to go see a physician? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. So yawning is ubiquitous. It seems that every person on the planet yawns to some degree multiple times a day. but some people yawn more than others. And in the absence of sleep problems or any issues with getting enough rest, it seems that excessive forms of yawning have been linked with various medical conditions, including some neurological conditions. So, for example, individuals with multiple sclerosis have been documented to yawn excessively. Individuals with epilepsy have also been documented to yawn at higher rates. So it is worthwhile if any listeners feel that they do have excessive yawning that's problematic and really above the average, that they might consider going to a physician to see if there's some underlying issue.
Now, Dr. Gallup, I have to tell you, what you weren't able to see kind of behind the microphones on our end is I asked that question, and I think Lisa thought there's no way that could be an indication of anything.
Yeah, I just thought, you're jumping to conclusions, but I was wrong.
Well, I mean, I think we need to be careful about the conclusions we draw. Some individuals might just have a higher natural frequency of yawning than others. But in the medical literature, excessive yawning has been linked to various types of conditions. It's considered a side effect of even some pharmaceutical drugs that raise brain and body temperature.
Now, earlier you mentioned that stifling your yawn is bad or has negative effects, and I wanted to pick that up and ask you to explain a little bit more about what those negative effects are.
Well, given the function of yawning increasing blood flow to the skull and promoting optimal brain temperature, it's the action pattern of the yawn that facilitates those actions. So by stifling the yawn, inhibiting the powerful gaping of the jaw, for example, that is going to reduce the subsequent blood flow to the brain. So therefore, the deviations in brain temperature or cerebral blood flow aren't going to be effectively modified if you stifle the yawn, which is only going to kind of lead to further issues related to blood flow and attention in a short-term setting. So in other words, the yawn itself helps to kind of reinstate these physiologic, neurologic, and attentional processes. And if you stifle the yawn, you're basically inhibiting that effect.
Does every animal yawn?
So yawning has been documented across all classes of vertebrates. So that means animals with a backbone. So that includes mammals, birds, reptiles, fish, and amphibians. We have done large-scale comparative analyses of yawning to try and document its ubiquitous nature across vertebrates, and we've shown that it is at least pervasive and widespread across mammals and birds. Further research needs to examine the prevalence of yawning in the other three classes of vertebrates, but similar types of kind of jaw gaping patterns have been observed. So it suggests that this behavior is really old evolutionarily, meaning that it evolved a really long time ago with the emergence of jawed vertebrates, and that has been preserved, or what we'd say conserved, evolutionarily ever since. And in order for a behavior to be so ubiquitous and conserved evolutionarily, widespread across these diverse classes of species, that indicates that it serves an adaptive function. Because if it didn't serve an adaptive function, it's likely that it would be lost, at least within some lineages. But the fact that it is so common suggests that it does serve some underlying basic physiological purpose. And research suggests that is related to, again, blood flow to the skull and brain temperature.
So this is way more than I ever thought a yawn was.
I
right?
know,
I had never
me too.
considered all of this, and I love, having someone that knows the answer to all these questions. I would suppose that I have only one more question before we let you go, and that question is, if it is a cooling of the brain, et cetera, when Lisa yawns, why do I yawn? Does it make my brain hot when she yawns, and that's why I'm like, what? Or how can I stop it? Do I need a helmet of ice or something so that I'm not constantly yawning?
Drink
when
ice
other,
water.
When
Would
other
that
people,
work?
Yeah. How come that is?
Well, yawn contagion is really interesting, and obviously it is something that humans show. Other non-human animals have also been shown to yawn contagiously as well. It's not as ubiquitous as the spontaneous form of yawning, but other highly social species have been shown to yawn in response to others' yawns as well. Now, the function of that we know even less about than we do the function of spontaneous yawning. But I believe that our understanding of spontaneous yawning lends itself to a better understanding of yawn contagion. So because spontaneous yawning and contagious yawning are identical motor action patterns, they're indistinguishable from one another. One is triggered by underlying physiological changes, the other is triggered by social stimuli. But once the yawns are activated, they appear to be the same, which implies that the physiological consequences of both yawns are also the same. So that if Lisa yawns spontaneously because of rises in her brain temperature, and that causes others around her to yawn, the individuals that yawn contagiously are also going to benefit from the same physiological processes or changes associated with the yawns. So as a consequence, everyone in the room, Lisa and everyone that yawns in response to Lisa's yawn, should show an improvement in alertness, mental processing, and blood flow to the skull. So that contagious yawning may have evolved to promote kind of collective patterns of group behavior, enhancing collective vigilance among groups.
So what I love about this,
connecting it all,
giving me now the perspective where once upon a time we thought it might be rude to yawn in a meeting and or teamwork activities.
Yeah.
Not only am I improving my own mental acuity, I'm also helping everyone else by really leaning into that yawn. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted me to take away from this conversation, Dr. Gallup, but know that is what I took away from this conversation. Dr. Andrew Gallup is an assistant professor of biopsychology at the State University of New York Polytechnic Institute. If you thought our discussion on why we yawn was interesting, tell your friends what you learned and have them listen to The Lisa Show for more interesting discussions like this one. Dr. Gallup, thanks for being on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How stressful is moving for you? Are there hacks to make it a little bit easier? Well, we've got the best ones coming up next.
If you've thought about flying a drone near a volcano, you're going to want to listen to this morning's buzz. Some warnings, some things maybe you probably should have thought through. You're listening to The Lisa Show.
Are you trying to help your dog's behavior, but you don't know where to start? In 20 minutes, we are excited. We're speaking with dog expert Cesar Millan. But first, we've got your morning buzz with Richie T.
It's three things that are trending online right now, things that folks are talking about. Yes, there will be Olympics as part of this discussion, but that's not where I want to start.
Okay.
I want to start by celebrating a national holiday.
Great.
Take your pants for a walk day.
Okay. What?
Not your
What?
pets. Your pants. Take your pants for a walk.
Why do they need to go on a walk?
Well, when was the last time you took your pants for a walk? You put some pants on and took a walk. When was the last time? Think about it. Rhetorical. Something maybe you can self-reflect. When was the last time I put pants on and took a walk? Mm-hmm. Now, you could define that as maybe sweatpants, and maybe that's a little bit more recent than like pants or dress pants. Slacks. Yeah. Knickerbockers, if you will.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Whatever kind of pants, take them for a walk today. Yeah, culottes. You want some jeggings? Is that technically a pant? I'm not sure. How about clam diggers?
There you go.
What about what are
capris?
Capris. That was the other one I was thinking. Man-prees. I had a pair of those once. Very bold choice in high school to wear a pair of man-prees.
Yeah.
One that I've reflected back on and regretted. But take your pants for a walk today. You distract me, and then I don't tell people about the holiday, Lisa.
Sorry. Just like pants.
Now let's get to the Olympics. So skateboarding is an Olympic event now.
Yes.
And in particular, the women's Olympics skateboarding, free skate, took place yesterday.
So cool.
The combined age of everyone on the platform,
Uh-huh.
that being the first, second, and third place, was 42.
That's amazing.
13-year-old was the one that got the gold. 13-year-old is the one who got the silver. And a 16-year-old is the one who got the bronze. So a total age of 42 years old on the podium there. Pretty cool. The one who got the silver, people will recognize from a viral video about 5 years ago, a princess skateboarding.
Yeah.
That's who.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
who won
really?
silver yesterday.
That's so cool.
So pretty cool. Tons of inspirational, fun things coming out of the Olympics. So if you're not watching, the Olympics are going on.
Got it.
And you should watch them. Lots of ways to consume it too, and a lot of the sports that you weren't able to see footage of because of the different networks and the on-demand these and the streaming this, you can watch basically whatever you want to. But you can't film a volcano. That's one thing I've learned. This is the third story for the Morning
dear.
Buzz this morning. So there's a guy, this is in Iceland, there's a new volcano. Didn't
Okay.
know that we were creating new volcanoes, but
didn't
there
either.
is. It's where the magma comes through the Earth's crust and exposed to a... Anyway, it comes up, and he's like, cool! Because he's a scientist. He
Sure.
thinks, I'm going to fly my drone over the volcano. What he didn't consider is that they are plastic propellers
Of course.
on the drone. Should have thought metal, perhaps, but would that have even made a difference?
I don't know. With
Spoiler,
magma.
Spoiler, magma is hot. A great video that if you want to see disaster in the making, you're like, oh, this is not, oh, this is, are we gonna, it's called I Tried to Film a Volcano, and it was a complete disaster. It's trending over on YouTube, and that is your Morning Buzz.
Thanks, Richie T.
If I ever come to you in the future and I say, hey, I want you to know I'm doing this exciting thing, and the next words out of my mouth are, I'm moving, I want you to grab me by both shoulders, and I want you to tell me, no, don't you remember the you of yesteryear that told me that you never want to do this ever again? Think about the choices that you are making. They will reflect everything in your life for the next little while. We're moving, and
this is going to be your forever home then? Is that what you're announcing?
the home I'm in right now would be my forever home if I got to pick completely. No, it's okay. It's a great opportunity. I am expanding. I'm spreading my arms and my legs and the familial footprint.
Oh, wow.
I mentioned on the show, this is actually kind of a cool part of this whole thing. And lest anyone think, all we're going to hear now is the woes of Richie moving.
Mm-hmm.
No. I have prepared tips for you if you
good.
find yourself
yes.
in a moving situation.
Well, it is a very stressful situation, and a lot of people find themselves in. And it's especially frustrating right now because the housing market is so stressful across the country. So this is very timely.
So let me just indulge me for 30 seconds.
Please.
So the home in which I live right now, I live right in the city. And when, like, our neighbors sneeze, my wife and I, we look at each other and say, bless you. And then we realize we just had the windows open and it was the neighbor. That's how close we are to the neighbors. Although a great place, a place that I bought when I was single. And so then getting married and having my wife come in and she goes, I would do some things different. I can't imagine that anyone would ever hear that scenario play out, but want to have a home that is our home rather than my home, which she's moved into, which I've been more than open about doing that, but there is something to that. When I got married, the first time I moved into my ex-wife's house, and there was something about living in a house which was not mine initially, that like you make that transition into a home that you both have decided to purchase, and it's different. So we are purchasing my grandmother, who recently passed, her home. And so we're moving into a place that I've been for every summer and Christmas for the last amount of years of my life, my entire life. They've lived in the same place, and so moving in there. What that entails...
The reality of this situation.
is a couple things. One is that we are buying the home from a family trust, which...
Is that complicated?
Yes. It's complicated because I have I have my dad, and then he has 5 siblings.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
And so to get consensus with 6 people as to what
about anything,
a price should be, a timeline of things, there is in like all the kids and great grandkids and all that stuff, everybody who wanted to come and get something from the home. There is 70 plus individuals that encompasses, and so everyone having a chance to come through, everyone having a chance to come get the things. And now we're at the point where we are packing up our home and making it ready to be shown to people for
in
an
anticipation
for an open house. Yes. So
and that's got to be an emotional process.
Absolutely. I put blood, literally, sweat, and tears into this. There's a great picture, and I can't believe you're sort of grimacing that I said that. A lot of the work on the home that I have now, I did myself. I didn't know how to do it, but I was like, this will be therapeutic. And so more than one time I took a crowbar to my forehead, not like I was frustrated, but like the crowbar slipped. And there's one where it's a great picture. I can't believe you haven't seen this, where I get myself right in the forehead and the blood sort of drips down. And I was like, this is a great picture. So all that to be said, the putting things together. Now, last week I mentioned on the show about like why we put off those tasks that would feel so much more comfortable within our home if we just did them. We continued to do that this last weekend.
Really?
Where I was like, I don't know why I didn't do this. This would have been nice. I like not having the nail in the wood floor stick up and cut my foot every time I walk over. I should have taken 2 seconds and fixed that. But also, like, getting rid of stuff, and that's actually the first tip that I want to share.
That's a great first tip for moving.
Before
Just throw
you
it away.
move, so you don't move it.
Yeah.
Super simple.
Yeah.
I know that people like yourself, those who constantly edit their homes, are like, yeah, Richie, welcome to the club.
No, it's still hard, though, because you just accumulate stuff no matter who you are.
And where does the stuff come from?
Target.
I'm glad you got an answer. Now, there are things where I'm just like, what? What is this? And on both sides, too, because my grandparents lived in that home for 50 years. It's a bunch of, everyone's got out the sentimental things. And now there's just a bunch of stuff within that home that everyone's like, I don't know. Like, it's perfectly good.
But it'll be a treasure to someone else.
Yeah.
You know, my kids and I thrift shop a lot. And that's if you ever feel that urge of like, oh, I can't get rid of this, it should mean something to something. It will. It will have value to someone else. When you give it away, you're not putting it in a landfill. Give it to a charity shop or a donation center. Someone will find it.
You're not giving it away. You're giving it more. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like in The Last of the Mohicans where I will find you. Someone will find that.
You just made it very highbrow real quick. Like, sure, just give it so it has another life. You're like in the great literary text of The Last of the Mohicans. You're right. I mean, you're 100% spot on.
I will find you.
Yes.
That someone will find that item that was meant for them. It will be a treasure. It will be a great find. It'll be a story. It will be loved. Let it go.
So here was one that I appreciated because I did the thing that anyone that is doing anything in the 21st century does, which is Google. Hey, I'm moving. Help. And then it gives you all these different tips. Make a moving folder. This seems like it has you and maybe more particular.
I mean, I would say binder, but go on.
Your sister Gina written all over this.
Yeah.
Start collecting new addresses, rental or purchase papers, moving contracts, and put them all in a folder. Consider a hard copy and a digital copy. That way, if any questions come up during the planning process or the move itself, you can instantly attach it to an email and send it off or be able to show those people. That is something that I am not wired that way, but knowing that is, something that would help it, I've been, okay, this is great. Now, it's my moving folder. And you're right, a binder may be a little bit more sturdy.
In a sheet protector.
The next one is pack as far in advance as possible.
Yeah, that's a good idea because you can pack, if it's summer, pack your winter coats, things like that.
Or even the clothes that they're like special occasion clothes and like in the next couple of months, that Halloween costume will likely not be used.
Your tuxedo.
Yeah, yes. You always actually have to have that on hand. But if there are things
for
that
other people.
your hosting platter. And you're not going to be hosting for a little while because that's in flux. You can sort of pack those things up. I appreciated that because then it's not week of, oh my gosh, because we've all either been that person or helped that person where you volunteer to help moving.
You're like packing garbage cans. Yeah. It's like, what is this? I don't know. We'll go through it later.
Just get it on the truck. We have to get the truck back by 5 o'clock.
Yep.
That's the woe of literally everyone, no matter how much planning, but you can minimize some of that. Book early, and I appreciated this one because we actually have to have our home cleaned as well as like the windows and all that stuff because you have to get the right pictures, the prime, clean, all that stuff. Book early if you're going to use moving services, if you're going to get renting supplies, getting a dolly. There's nothing worse than when you need a dolly not being able to get one.
Oh, am I right?
Yeah. Who's with me?
Yeah.
Hiring those
dolly.
I was trying to figure a way to get that in there. Painters, cleaners, anything that can help. Because if you do it in a panic, people can smell panic and they charge you for panic. Yeah. I need someone this afternoon. Well, I can be there, sir.
I mean,
at the price of exactly. This one I've already started to do. Scheduling your utilities for your new place.
Oh, good for you.
This home that we're moving into has never had the internet before.
What?
Yeah, they did. They still have, and we will keep. They have now. I can't think of the old rotator. What are the
rotary phones?
Rotary phones. They have a rotary phone in the basement that we will leave where it is hung.
How
and
cool.
I just love it. It's one of the iconic things about this home. Red rotary phone right there in the center of this room. Going to leave it right there. But that to be said, I don't know if like the house is rigged to have internet or how that even works.
You're going to need to get some wires.
Right.
Let me tell you, it's going to get real technical here.
In the middle of the night, climb to the neighbor's box and then attach a wire. No, of course not. But being able to think through that because
it's going to take some time.
Yeah, the last thing that I need is to be there and be like, I got some work to do with the library. That's what I apparently do. Invest in equipment. Now, this is things like...
Okay, this is an unusual one.
Like stocking up on your supplies, like you can never have too much moving tape.
Oh, yeah.
How about box cutters? How about adhesive bandages? They sort of go hand in hand with box cutters or moving. Permanent markers, packing tape, paper towels, garbage
Sharpies.
Bags. This seems like you would have this all in a tote. That
I
would
was just
be like,
say,
Lisa.
I'm really excited about this because this is fun. School supplies and office supplies are my jam. Mm-hmm. And so you can get them all, put them all in a little tote. Might I make a recommendation? This is a pro tip, but it will save you a lot of time. Get those colored note cards, okay? Colored note cards. And each color can be a different room in the house. So green note cards are kitchen supplies. Blue are for the bedroom. Yellows for living room and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Pro tip.
That's
With
great.
the Sharpie, it will save you time when people are helping you move, whether you've hired them professionally or they're just friends that you suckered into helping with the promise of pizza.
I brought pizza, exactly. How funny.
Then they'll, instead of asking you, where does this go, where does this go, a color is easier to tell than like, where did you write it, on what side of the box?
That's smart. I love that.
Pro tip.
All right. Colored cards.
Colored cards.
How about this one? Keep the essentials with you. Things like a change of clothes, a toothbrush, must-have stuffed animals for
passports
yourself, for your kids, medications, paperwork, etc. Keep it in a suitcase or in the bag with you in the car because you never know.
No, don't
what's
put it on
happen.
the moving truck.
Yeah, and then finally, as far as suggestions with it, get a truck with a loading ramp.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you're deep knee bending your way to not being able to walk the next day. Those are some great tips for moving. Now, if I may, because they go hand in hand, and I'll go quickly through these. I learned the packing tips for moving.
Oh.
So this is the actual packing of these things.
Okay.
Use the right size boxes. And guess what? You can buy the right size boxes at the store or look on any sort of like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, good idea.
People are always moving. And people are always, once those boxes are empty, they don't want those boxes anymore. They recognize they're perfectly good. They can't fit them in their recycling. So go take them from that person.
Great
Then you have
idea.
that tape that you have on hand, and you get their boxes.
Don't put
right?
your books in the largest box.
Put heavier items on the bottoms of boxes and lighter items on top is suggestion number 2. Don't leave empty spaces in the boxes. is tip number 3. You want to fill in the gaps with clothing, towels, packing paper. Movers often won't move boxes that feel loosely packed or unbalanced. I didn't know that. You can avoid mixing items from different rooms in the same box, a la Lisa's color-coded color cards on the top. Label each box with the room that it's destined for and a description of its contents. If you got the time and if you start packing in advance, man, what a rock star you'll feel like. Seriously. To be like, that box, that room,
That'll
and you
save
know
you so much
exactly what
time.
it is. If you're moving expensive art, ask your mover about special crating for those fancy pieces. Or if like you're moving a pool table, just hire someone to move the pool table.
Seriously.
Don't try and
Or
do
a
that
piano.
yourself. Piano, yeah.
Hire a piano mover.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah, you absolutely do not want to do those kind of things on yourself. Take special care packing the kitchen for moving. Take a little bit of time. Get a man friend or a gal pal and spend the afternoon eating delicious things and taking your time to pack up that kitchen because those are most likely the ones to be damaged.
Wrap. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of wrapping with that. Get your wardrobe in order. Plus, it's a great time to see what you have and maybe select the things that you might buy when you get into the new place. And then finally, the final tip for packing and moving as we've walked, sort of our way through all this and let you know just the particular kind of life I'm leading presently.
It's so glamorous.
You learn how to pack a TV for moving.
Oh.
Because you can damage the plasma TVs if you do them the wrong way. The LED, those things are expensive. And if you choose to do them yourself, make sure you transport them accurately. Otherwise, how will you relax after a long day of moving?
I was going to say, you got to
stare at a wall.
Set up your TV as soon as you get in to your new place just to make it feel like home.
Please bless this time that all might make it through.
You know what? You need to take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Throw away half your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
get some colored cards and a nice new Sharpie, extra packing tape. You're going to be great.
Okay. When we get all done, we're going to need a trip. Maybe we should go on an adventure to one of the national parks. This, of course, the hard segue into telling you to go to BYURadio.org and enter to win an annual National Parks Pass as part of Lisa's Adventure Club. The word of the week is backcountry. The website is BYURadio.org.
Now, up next, we're excited to be talking to dog expert Cesar Millan to get all his tips and tricks to improve your dog's behavior.
That's right here on The Lisa Show. We'll be right back.
Dog adoptions hit a record high during the pandemic while everyone was stuck indoors. And now many well-intentioned and perhaps impulsive dog owners find themselves dealing with their pets' behavioral issues as they return to work and normal life. So today we're excited. We've invited into this conversation dog behavior expert Cesar Millan. He has a new TV series, Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog, where he helps owners tackle some of the most demanding cases he's seen in his 25-year career. He's joining us today so we can get help on our own dog's behavior post-pandemic. Welcome, Cesar. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm very curious, what have you seen as you talk to everyone about how the pandemic impacted dogs' behavior?
Well, the pandemic has impacted dogs because the way we react to the situation, right? So most people are uncertain, they develop anxiety, they're confused, sadness, all of that, the pandemic does into a human is going to affect the dog directly. The dog doesn't know we're going through a pandemic. The dog is going, what he knows is we're going through an energetic crisis, right?
Right.
And so that energetic crisis creates an uncertainty in a dog, and that uncertainty leads them into not feeling happy, and then not feeling happy for many, many days. It sends them into chaos. So that's like a ripple effect of the wrong energy being shared to a dog, because it reacts to your energy, right? There is no knowledge behind instinct. It's all reaction. So the dog just reacts from the energy you share, not the activities you're living.
Okay. So when they are reacting from the energy that they're feeling in our homes, how does that manifest itself in the dogs? What kind of behavior are you seeing an increase of?
Well, if a dog is, because there's 3 positions in the pack, so you're going to have the sensitive dogs or the back of the pack dogs. Those are going to become more timid, right? If the energy is too strong in the house, they're going to become more timid. If the middle of the pack, they're going to become more hyper. The front of the pack, they're going to become more aggressive, more dominant, more territorial, right? So it depends on where the dog, what position he was going to play in the pack, and the energy that you share as a pet parent, that's going to affect the dog the wrong way.
Okay.
No different from a human, when
Sure.
your parents didn't feel well, you as a child, you didn't know what was happening. You just knew that they didn't feel well.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to react based on that.
A situation that people will find themselves in now, though, they adopted the dog. They were home a lot during the pandemic. And now, because the workplace is calling them back to work, this is causing a whole different kind of anxiety for our dogs as we're now not with them as much. What can we do for our dogs in this scenario?
Well, the thing is, most people before the pandemic used to tell me, I don't have time, right? So now with all this time, what the reality is, they didn't have the knowledge, right? So so now that you have all this time, the dog should be perfect, right? The dog should be already conditioned to when you go back to work, the dog knew how to separate himself from you. The thing is, when a person is inside the house, it allows the dog to follow them everywhere. My dog is like a shadow. My dog is so clingy, right? But what we need to learn is if a dog follows you, let's put up a number. If a dog follows you 50 times a day, make sure 25 he doesn't follow you, because that becomes an activity. Just like you asking children to follow you, not to follow you inside the house. Make sure that you practice not to be followed inside the house. So then the dog learns that that's an activity, right? So when you actually go away, his brain is already conditioned to do not follow you. But make sure the dog practice this after the walk in the morning. So do not practice separating from the dog as soon as you wake up in the morning, because his physical energy is going to be too high.
Oh,
Practice
okay.
separation when his physical energy is low, because separation is a mental activity. So it's like obedience. When you practice obedience with a dog and you ask him, sit, stay, and then you walk away, don't practice obedience full of physical energy. Practice obedience when the dog is tired and hungry, because that's just going to motivate him to stay there and get inspired by the food, how he's going to get that. So, and then you say, sit. Oh, okay. So if I put my butt on the floor, and then you give me something. And if I wait, you give me something. If I lay down, you give me something. But the dog won't be able to do it if he's full of physical energy.
That's really good advice we're getting from Cesar Millan, who is our dog whisperer. He's got a new show called Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. And we're talking about really the transition that our dogs have been facing as we return back to work by being, all together during the pandemic. I appreciate that specific advice. And I'm wondering, other than, practicing when they're tired and hungry, and practicing specific traits for them to practice while we're with them, are there things that we can do before we leave to help either entertain or train our dogs?
Well, and not only redirecting what you're saying, and how do I redirect the dog so when I leave he's doing something. Don't forget that also how you leave the house, because what happens with my clients is they feel sorry or they feel worried.
Right.
But when you practice that energy, the dog is going to sense there is something wrong with you. So his instincts are going to follow you to protect you, right? So It's best to feel calm, confident, just like when we drop a kid in preschool, calm, confident, so the kid feel that that's exactly how you want him to behave.
I love that. Yeah, modeling that behavior for your pet.
Exactly. So that way the dog responds calm, surrender, meaning open-minded to that activity. So when you leave the house, you are calm, confident, and the dog have to respond calm, surrender. It's almost like you going to a yoga class or meditation class. Right? So the student becomes calm, surrender, and then the teacher is calm, confident. And then you have this relationship, right? So, and then it's easier for you to practice relaxation.
A thing that strikes me as we kind of come post-pandemic, and some would debate that, whether we're actually in that space or not, but as people are returning to work, I know in some scenarios that people are having to or choosing to, I guess, to give back their dog or to get rid of the family dog. If we're taking in one of those dogs that has been loved and taken in another home, are there different conditions that we would need to be aware of bringing those dogs into our home, those readopted dogs?
Well, let's address the part where people feel that like they have to return the dog. That means the human was never committed.
Right.
Right. And so, it's a relationship. So once you enter a relationship, you're committed or not. Or you can just, be honest with yourself. No, I just wanted a temporary relationship. Well, that's different. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's important that when you adopt a dog, regardless of what the past was, is the dog is compatible to you. So what I tell people, don't worry about what happened to the dog in the past. You can rescue a dog from really harsh environments, and as soon as the dog is in your home, that's the new beginning. So let's focus on the moment, but make sure that dog is compatible to your family, right? So that means your energy has to be a little stronger because you want to assume the position of protection direction, which makes you the leader of the house. Is your responsibility. So your energy has to be a little stronger than wherever you adopt. So it's easier for them just to click into a follower position. But when a person rescues a dog that the energy is stronger or higher, that dog becomes their pack leader. And that's exactly why a lot of people say, well, I have to return the dog because the dog is too much. Or the dog doesn't behave, or the dog doesn't listen to me. I love him, but he doesn't listen to me. So not because you love somebody, you trust them. Not because you love somebody, they respect you. So trust, respect, love. That is the order. Trust, respect, love.
Such great advice when we're talking about how to really take care of our dogs. Is this the kind of content that we expect to see on your new TV series? Tell us a little bit about that.
To me, it's all about training humans. Right? My goal in life is to make sure people hear my knowledge way before they get a dog, so they're prepared. And they know exactly, what to do, what to choose, how to choose it as a family, because a lot of times people say, the kids want a dog, but that's not the right way to go by. Yeah. Everybody has to be in agreement, and everybody has to understand what their responsibility are, and everybody signs on this is what we have to do for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
The commitment.
Yeah.
So you have to have your spirit, your instincts, your heart, and your intellect in place before you go into get whatever dog you want. Yep. So people are going to see my message way more clear. People are coming to my ranch. There's 43 acres of this beautiful magic land that I have created, and of course, throughout the years, I've been raising my two kids, Andre and Calvin. So now it's my pack helping your pack. Before it's just me helping your pack.
Yeah.
Now it's my pack helping your pack. So you're gonna see how awesome of a father I am.
That's great. It's a family affair. It's very applicable to all of us, right?
Absolutely. That's the whole point of being a parent, right? To make sure my kids, to help the next generation human. Yeah. This tradition continues of, making sure that we educate humans so dog stays in that home for the rest of his life.
Well, we're looking forward to it. The show is called Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer here on The Lisa Show. If you want to follow him online, and you should, you can find him on Instagram at Caesar's Way or on Twitter at Cesar Millan. And we appreciate you being on the show. Look forward to that new show coming out. Cool to be able to see it making a family affair.
Exactly. As I had a rescue dog just a few months ago, and it is a family affair, and there's so many things to consider, and I really appreciate that his good advice.
I also, and he sort of snuck in this piece of life advice. I'm not sure if you caught it, but he's like, don't worry about the past. You can sort of reestablish who you're going to be moving in the future, and knowing where. This is where I get sweet and sentimental. Fight through it. Where the past of my particular rescue dog, and there are pictures of what they found him as, and what his life was probably like before we rescued him, and just knowing how he is today, and it's a night and day difference, and maybe that's something that we can sort of adopt some of that mentality within ourselves, for sure.
Oh, that's sweet.
A hard cough and then a transition of subject.
I know.
We've been talking about the annual National Parks passes that we're giving away as part of Lisa's Adventure Club, and that you can go to byuradio.org to enter to win, and that if you know that the keyword of the week is backcountry, that you'll get more entries.
Yes.
But something that we haven't focused enough of, let me say enough of, is how popular national parks are. I mean, we love them. And there are 63 in the country. Those are just the national parks. There are also national recreation areas and all those things.
Absolutely, and state parks. And it's fun to be able to connect with people and say, hey, where have you been? And where should I dream of going next? And it's a very connective thing, especially in this moment in time in our country.
And on Thursdays on the Lisa Show, we always will do a deep dive into one of those particular parks, maybe one that you've heard of before or maybe one that you haven't. But for some people, they really like the national parks where there are not a lot of people.
Yeah,
and so
that's true. Out of the way.
May I present to you the 10 least visited national parks and why you have to see them.
Oh, this is great.
Gates of the Arctic is number 10. That's in Alaska. It's a dream destination for many outdoor lovers, campers, and hikers because this state, that is the state of Alaska, home to 4 of the largest national parks in the country. So you have more space.
Yeah.
More space. Even with as many people as in some of the other ones, you're less likely to run into them. How about this? Named after yourself. Did you know this?
What?
Lake
No.
Clark National Park.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also up in Alaska. It has only 13,000 annual visitors to Lake Clark.
Well, and it's hard to get to Alaska.
Sure.
It
sure.
probably has nothing to do with the park.
Well, it's a gorgeous park. There's a beautiful picture of a bear here in this thing I printed off the internet. This one in Michigan.
Okay.
The Isle Royale National Park.
Okay. I've never heard of that one.
You can escape from the world when you step into this national park where you'll find scenic hiking, calm waters, and soul-shaking solitude. That sounds nice.
Oh, it does.
I'd like my soul to be shook with solitude. When you arrive, you can shake off the awe. You can start trekking. With a Michigan fishing license, you can catch breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
If you want fish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you couldn't catch a sandwich.
I
appreciate
nice breakfast burrito.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is that in there?
Yeah,
Nope,
well,
just
all
fish. How about we go back to Alaska for Kobuk Valley National Park? This is the up in Alaska. It's sand dunes. The Kobuk Sand Dunes. When you think of Alaska, you probably don't think of sand dunes, but there's a national park of sand dunes there.
That's amazing.
The North Cascades up in Washington.
Oh, okay.
Only 21,000 people visit that national park every year.
Okay.
The Dry Tortugas, a fun national
Where's
park to
that?
say. Down in Florida.
Okay.
History buffs, this park is for you. Dry Tortugas is home to Fort Jefferson, the largest all-masonry fort in the country. It's also the gateway to the Gulf of Mexico. And you get to say, Dry Tortugas.
Which is always fun.
Which I think is translated turtles. I think that's how you say Tortuga. Great Basin National Park over in Nevada, our neighbor to the west.
That's not visited very often?
No, because when you think about it, you think you drive right on through to Yosemite or you go over to Death Valley National Park or
I
Joshua
thought that
Tree.
maybe you would visit it a little bit more often because it's around all of those places.
Negatory.
Okay.
How about Conagry National Park in South Carolina? This is one of the most diverse, least visited national parks. Unique geography, magical feeling for every visitor. It has a 2.4-mile boardwalk trail available, which is pretty cool. And you can canoe along Cedar Creek in Conagry. I've only got a couple more. How about the Guadalupe Mountains National Park? This is in Texas. Babbling mountain streams, dense woodlands, and rocky canyons. One of the most geographically diverse national parks with only 145,000 people that visit it a year.
Okay, so if you want to go and not be stuck in the crowds and really have some time to yourself, these are great places to go.
And then finally, Colorado. the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, which I need to look up why it's called the Black Canyon of the Gunnison.
Yeah, we need to do some more research on this.
This particular park is big enough to be overwhelming, yet still intimate enough to feel the pulse of time, according to the National Park Service.
I want to feel the pulse of time.
You'll feel small as you stand next to the 2,000-foot tall canyon walls, but don't let that stop you from lacing up your boots and seeing what this park is made of. Some cool places.
Oh, yeah.
And just 10 of many destinations you could put on your calendar. Put miles between you and the road in your car as you make a bucket list if you win that annual National Parks Pass from Lisa's Adventure Club. Go to BYURadio.org. Again, keyword of the week is backcountry. Make it one word. It sounds like two words.
It does.
Spoiler, it is two words. But when we came up with words, we thought of words that we would be like, yeah, that makes sense when you're thinking about adventure.
Come on.
Yeah. No hyphen, no space.
No.
Make it one word.
And we really want to be able to share not only, this contest, right, and the opportunity to win an annual National Parks Pass, but the excitement in getting out of your own vista and being able to see something a little bit different. And so I love hearing where everyone has visited, where they want to go. That's also part of this Adventure Club. Now, at the end of the summer, we're going to give away a grand prize, which is an annual National Parks Pass plus a $500 Visa gift card. And so when you enter for a chance to win, you're also entered into our end of the summer celebration as well.
But you won't win if you don't enter.
No.
BYURadio.org.
The Lisa Show is a production of BYU Radio. You can find everything you need on that BYU Radio app, where you can listen on demand. We're also over on SiriusXM Channel 143.
Find The Lisa Show wherever you get your podcasts, and do us a personal favor. Like you were in the same room with Lisa and I, and we said, hey, have you subscribed? You would say yes.
Yeah, you would.
So we're going to make an honest person out of you.
On tomorrow's show, how do you shift your view on therapy? Well, we're going to discuss.
Thank you for making The Lisa Show a part of your day.